Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first installment of our Global Perspectives Speaker Series for 2021. My name is Mark Wynn. I'm a Vice President in the International Group here at the Dallas Fed and Director of the bank's Globalization Institute, which hosts these events in collaboration with our Communications and Outreach Department. Our guest this evening is R.C. Buford, who has been the Chief Executive Officer of Spurs Sports and Entertainment since July 2019. In that capacity, he leads the business operations for all sports franchises owned and operated by Spurs Sports, including the San Antonio Spurs, the Austin Spurs, and San Antonio FC, as well as the operations of the AT&T Center and Toyota Field in San Antonio. Buford was previously president of sports franchises for Spurs Sports from 2008 to 2019. He served as general manager of the Spurs while overseeing sports administration for the organization's other teams. He was named NBA's Executive of the Year in 2014 and 2016. Buford started his professional career in 1983 as an assistant coach at the University of Kansas. The Jayhawks participated in the NCAA tournament during each of his 5 seasons, advancing to the Final Four in 85-86 and winning the NCAA championship in 1988. He moved to the NBA and the Spurs in 1988 as an assistant coach on Larry Brown's staff and spent 4 seasons with the team. In 1992, Buford joined the Los Angeles Clippers as first assistant for Brown, and during the 1993-94 season, he served as an assistant coach at the University of Florida. He returned to San Antonio as the Spurs head scout in 1994 and elevated to director of scouting in 1997, vice president and assistant GM in 1999, and then in 2002 he was named the general manager. He played basketball at Texas A&M and Oklahoma State before receiving his degree from Friends University. He's involved in the NBA Basketball Without Borders Africa Camp, and in 2015 became an advisory board member for the Fuqua Coach K Center on Leadership and Ethics at Duke University. He also serves on the board of Peace Players International. RC will participate in a moderated conversation with Rob Kaplan, who is the current president and CEO of the Dallas Fed. Before joining the Fed, Rob was a professor and senior associate dean at Harvard Business School, which he joined after a long business career at Goldman Sachs. About 30 minutes into our event this evening, we will be taking audience questions. If you would like to ask the speakers a live question, please click the raise hand icon on the bottom of the control bar to enter the queue. If you would prefer to submit a written question, just use the Q&A button to submit your question. We'll try to get to as many questions as possible and also try to address the questions in the order in which they are received. And I apologize in advance if we do not get to your question. And with that, I'll turn the floor over to Rob. Rob?
Thank you, Mark. RC, welcome. Just for the audience, I'll give you a little bit background. RC and I are both from Kansas. I'm from Kansas City, a part of Kansas, and RC's from Wichita. I first met RC many years ago. Believe it or not, in the sort of the middle 2000s, from maybe, I guess it was something like 2012, 13, and 14. And before I came to the Fed, I did strategic work with RC. RC, as we're going to hear in this interview, which is why he fits right into Global Perspectives, he thinks globally. He thinks very strategically. He was one of the first general managers in the NBA to think about players and player acquisition globally. Think of Parker, Ginobili, and others. RC was really a pioneer in this area. And I actually, because of work that Spurs won the World Championship in 2014, probably the only chance in my life. I've never even worn this ring, but RC came to Boston and gave me a championship ring to thank me for the work I did with the team, which he didn't need to do, but I'll always appreciate it. But RC's been a good friend, and I've been sort of twisting his arm now, I guess, for a few years to come and do Global Perspectives. And I finally, in a weak moment, I talked him into it. And so RC, we're thrilled that you're here. RC, if you can tell from the screen, is sitting in the arena in San Antonio because the Spurs are about to play the Timberwolves tonight. And so I don't know what tip-off is, but I said we're not we're going to get this interview over before you start getting run over by professional basketball players. So anyhow, well, RC, welcome here. And I guess I want to say a special hello to Bob Buford, RC's father, and Ann Buford, my good friend, who originally introduced us, who's been my friend for many years, who went to the University of Kansas. So anyhow, welcome, RC.
Thanks, Rob. It's a real pleasure to be here.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit. We'll go back on some of the chronology that Mark went through. How did you come? You went from being a assistant coach. You followed Larry Brown from Kansas, and then came to the Spurs, and then followed him to California. How did you become, or how did you get interested in going from being a coach to a general manager? How did that happen?
Well, basketball was always my passion. I grew up playing it. When I got out of school, the athletic director at the University of Kansas at the time, Monty Johnson, introduced me to Larry Brown, and Coach Brown didn't have anybody to walk his dog or pick up his laundry, and it fit my skill sets perfectly. So I got into coaching. I coached for 11 years, and during that time, I was introduced to Greg Popovich, and we were assistant coaches together. He did a sabbatical at the University of Kansas for about 4 months, and then was a Division III head coach at Pomona Pitzer, and went back to Pomona in '88. We won the national championship at Kansas, he went back in '87. We won the championship in '88, and we came to San Antonio. And when he spent his time with us at Kansas, it was clear that he was not only a brilliant basketball mind, but a brilliant leader. And in '94, he came back to the Spurs as a general manager. I really believed in his vision and his leadership, and he asked me to come join the front office. And it was at that point that my career pivoted. I moved into the front office with him. And it's shocking to think there were 3 of us in the front office and our entire scouting department at that time. And to think where the scouting profession has been elevated through data, through international play, it's a big change from where we were then. But it's been an amazing journey.
And so let's talk about, first of all, you were general manager for many years. You now, just for the audience, you now run all the operations for the Spurs. But if you're a general manager and a great general manager for many years, what makes a great general manager in the NBA?
I don't know if this makes a great general manager, but I think as leaders, what you really have to be is team builders. And that's what we're doing from a leadership point, whether it be the basketball program, whether it be other sports franchises, or whether it is in our business and corporate development, we're tasked as leaders to be team builders and try to find elite talent and then put them in the best position that we can for them to succeed. And so the more we can spend time building teams and being curious to learn and grow and put our people in a position to learn and grow. I would hope that's what makes us all successful as leaders and as team builders.
And in a typical day as general manager, when you were doing that full time, how do you spend your time? I guess during the season, and I guess then during the off season. How do you spend a typical day as general manager?
It's spent with your team, with your coaches, with your staff, building the synergies that are required. We basically can build our team 3 ways: through the draft, through free agency, and through trades. And so depending on your markets, different markets will fit better with different programming. And clearly the draft fit San Antonio, fit our player development and player care model really well. We were never going to compete with the Los Angeleses or the New Yorks from a talent recruitment standpoint. So we needed to get elite at trying to find talent and then develop them and staff, and use data analytics, use values alignment, and use talent identification to help build those teams.
So you might explain this from a compensation point of view. What kind of advantage do bigger markets have over you in how much you can pay? I think most people think there's a salary cap and it's sort of leveled the playing field. How does this actually work as you think about that?
There is a salary cap, and it has done a great job of distributing talent throughout the NBA. As collective bargaining has occurred, there are advantages of big markets versus small markets. We don't consider ourselves a small market. We really live and breathe in two of the biggest, fastest growing communities in the country between Austin and San Antonio. And so this is more than just San Antonio. Having said that, our markets don't generate the revenues that New York, LA, they're probably 3 times our gates on a game by game basis. The NBA does have revenue sharing, but it still puts different markets into a different advantage from a competitive advantage aspect.
So I've attended enough games with you over the years that I remember attending one game with you where one of your players was injured. I think broke his finger, and you were about to head on a long road trip. And I watched you for the next couple of hours, how you thought about going out and finding a player. You may remember that, to replace it. And I learned a lot. You mentioned your player care model, and I learned a lot that you have a philosophy. You're not just looking for the best player, you're looking for fit. You might explain, how's your philosophy in that regard maybe different than other NBA teams?
It's difficult for me to translate what other NBA teams do. I know when the Holt family became owners and investors in the Spurs in 1996, they brought values-based leadership to our program, and they challenged us to come up with a set of values that we would hold ourselves accountable to. And I know the Holts have talked often about when they came into the NBA governors meetings, people asked them how they wanted to operate, and Peter explained under a values-based approach. And I think it was met with quite a bit of skepticism. You can do that maybe in your regular business, but in professional sports, that doesn't really work. And quite frankly, we had great alignment with Peter's leadership and Pop's leadership and their visions of this is the way we want to do things. So our values are our first filters from a talent management standpoint, from a staffing standpoint, from a business and sporting alignment, and from a partnership generation. And I think it's really important that we know who we are, and how we build our teams is based upon our values.
So I mentioned your work internationally. And at the time you started, you might give the background, it was very unusual for general managers to be looking globally for players. What got you started on thinking globally? And then how did it lead to players like Parker, Ginobili, others that you've gone after globally?
Pop worked for Don Nelson with the Golden State Warriors, and Nelly and now Donnie, his son, with the Mavericks, have always had a great appreciation for the game internationally. And really a lot of the non-traditional aspects of Nelly's coaching fit Pop's vision of how to build a team. It's diversity of thought, it's diversity of experience. It's putting together teams from many different environments and growing together in that respect. Our team in 2014, the ring you're sporting had 11 of our 14 players born outside the United States, including Duncan, Parker, Ginobili. And that was just an appreciation of how we built our team. And we talk about our system in an eyes, ears, and numbers aspect. What we see with our eyes, what we hear from a values alignment, and then how the numbers, both traditional basketball metrics and now more advanced basketball metrics, have evolved over time. It still goes down to how a team fits, the diversity of experiences that we can bring together. And it fit the way Pop wanted to build a team to look globally at talent. You know,
So
you have to be incredibly lucky. In 1999, we drafted Manu Ginobili with the 57th pick, and everybody said, "Oh, you were brilliant for finding Ginobili." Well, in that same draft, we had the 42nd pick, and we drafted a Croatian kid named Gordon Giricek, who came and had a nice NBA career, played 7 years in the NBA. And if we were that damn smart, we'd have picked Manu at 42 and Giricek at 57. But, you know, we weren't that smart, and we got lucky, and Manu became, you know, not only the player, but the person who helped change our franchise.
And where was Manu playing when you drafted him?
We first saw him playing for the under-20 Argentinian national team. It was at a World Championships that was held in Melbourne, Australia. He was playing for the Argentinian under-20 team, but he was then playing in Italy, in Reggio Calabria, when we drafted him. He moved to Bologna and played for a future coach with us, Ettore Messina, and with the team in Bologna, where he became MVP of the EuroLeague and one of the great players in the world. And he joined us after the 2002 World Championships.
And where did you find Tony Parker?
Tony, you know, I don't think you find anybody. It sounds like you find people, but Tony played in the Nike Hoop Summit in Portland that places the top 10 to 12 international under 18 players versus the top 10 to 12 domestic players. And Tony came to the United States and played for the international team as an 18-year-old. And it was at that point in time we found him to fit what we thought we wanted to see. We spent a lot of time going back to France, watching him the next year. And in the following draft, we're able to draft him at the end of the first round. With David Robinson and Tim Duncan as leaders of our program, we were going to have to find talent in different places because we were going to draft at the end of the draft, at the end of the first round, at the end of the second round. So we felt like we needed to be creative and look in places where other people may not have been spending as much time. And I think at that point, it really pointed us to a more international approach, which fortunately fit the way Pop wanted the team built.
You've talked to me a lot over the years about analytics and particularly analysis of injuries and making sure using more sophisticated techniques for how you assess and treat injuries. Could you explain that a little bit, just the audience watching, how you think about that?
So we had a really good program, good team with focused around Tim, Tony, and Manu from probably 2003 to 2007 or 8. We won 3 championships. We lost in buzzer beating overtimes to the Mavericks in 2006 and to the Lakers in 2004, or we might have been in a position to have a 5-year run similar to what Golden State has just been through.
Yeah.
We get past 2010, and now Tim Duncan was north of 30 and Manu Ginobili was north of 30. And Tim was dragging around a pretty injured knee that was really limiting his ability to perform at the level that he expected to do. So we looked at biologic PRP stem cell opportunities to try to prolong Tim's career, and it pointed us to a non-traditional model for player care, which was, I think it follows a much different structure than the American healthcare model. The American model is based on injury treatment and illness treatment. And I think if you look internationally, you'll see a much different model that's focused on with injury and illness prevention.
Huh.
And
That's
so
interesting.
as we looked at some of the great programs around the world, the New Zealand All Blacks, FC Barcelona, Manchester United, Manchester City programming, their player care model was just built differently. And over the course of time from 2010 through the last decade, we really looked to build a different model that helped us prolong the careers we hope. And it had a great deal of engagement with a coach who was very protective of our players. In Pop, that we rested players in different places than even what the league recognized. In 2011, we got fined by sitting 3 of our best players
toward the end of the season.
No, it was in November. It was in
November.
It was in the
But
first
you
month
wanted
of
to
the
rest
season.
them, and the league didn't appreciate you resting them.
Yeah, exactly. We were playing our 5th game in 6 nights, or 5th game in 7 nights. We had won a game in Orlando, and we had a private plane set for Tim, Tony, Manu, and Danny Green to fly back from Orlando. And the plane had a maintenance issue and couldn't fly them home that night. The rest of the team went on to play in Miami the next day, and we were playing the Heat in the first TNT game of the season. So it was the first televised NBA game in the TNT's regular season. And we had to get our players home, the ones we were sending from Orlando. The only plane that was available was a Southwest plane from Orlando home. So it was just when cell phone cameras and Twitter were coming into vogue, and here people were tweeting that Tim, Tony, and Manu were in middle seats coming back from Orlando to San Antonio on Southwest Airlines. And the league found out about it, and they fined us a pretty stiff deal. And it was the year after the Heat won their first championship. So here we were playing with a short roster against the Heat, and we lost the game on a last-second shot. I haven't wanted to win many regular season games as badly as that one. But it was just Pop's engagement along with what early science was telling us that allowed us to then have Tim, Tony, and Manu play till they were 40 plus years old and extend their careers, even at a time when Ginobili had played 24 months of national team play, which is another 3 NBA seasons. Tony had played a very similar international team program with France. Yet we were able to extend their careers in ways that hadn't been traditionally focused.
All right, so let me hit on a couple other topics, then we're going to go to the audience questions. You and I have talked also a lot over the years about how you view your market area, and particularly, development of following you would like to have that you're working on in Austin and the rest of Texas and more broadly. How do you think about your market area for your team, and what's your strategy there?
So traditionally, our marketing was focused on San Antonio and Bexar County. And what I think we found is Austin is in our territory. It's in our DMA. There are people traveling in the Bay Area from further distances and longer times to go to a Golden State game or a 49er game or a Giants or a A's game than what it takes to travel back and forth with Austin. And I think we've got a real focus as we look at our future strategic planning on capturing those markets together. It would really help if you could get us a train built between Austin and San Antonio and Dallas and Houston. But
they're working on
connecting these markets in a way, even all the way to Monterey. And the corridor between Monterey, San Antonio, Austin would be one of the most dynamic corridors in the world once we align these and really build on the synergies that are taking place within this region. It really needs to be a region, not different markets.
Right. That makes sense. Let's talk about COVID, which has been a big part of your mindset and had to be for quite some time. So going back in last March, April, NBA had to make a very tough decision, which is to suspend the season. What went into that, and then what went into the decision to play the rest of the season later in the year in the bubble?
So when I came to you for advice in the summer of 19, whether I should take the CEO role or not, you didn't tell me we were going to have COVID hit us 5 months after I started. But I think we were all unprepared for that. And the NBA, I think, took great leadership with Adam Silver and the governors of the league to really shut down an environment that we didn't know when we'd be back in the gym together. From that point forward, they really did an amazing job of creating a safe environment for us to compete in. When you really had to make a decision by the middle of May to get a season started with us going back into the Orlando bubble July 10th. And so kudos to the leadership of the NBA, not only to be experts and in partnership with Disney and all that went in to making this the Orlando Disney bubble so safe, but then to create the medical protocols to create an environment. While we were in the bubble, there were literally no outbreaks of COVID once we got the bubble locked down, and it was unbelievable commitment from our players to the safety of the environment. You know, there were 22 teams that went there July 10th, and the teams that played all the way to the NBA finals were there for 3 months until October 10th. And so that was quite a sacrifice for players, for their product, for our product. And then it was quite a commitment from the league and from our media partners to put together a structure for allowing our fans to be able to connect in a way when they couldn't come to us. And so that was really heroic on many levels. And kudos to Adam and the leadership at the NBA, along with the support of the Board of Governors at a time where we also had social justice issues that became significant for all of us to be aware of and to respectfully do some self-examination. And especially in a league that's 80% African-American, our players deserved the attention that they were demanding to address many of the issues that face communities, disadvantaged communities. And so I think it was a great forum for us to come together and learn together, but also to really focus programming on how we can not only address our business model, but also our community and societal impact model.
Yep. Well done. And the coaches I noticed got into it also. Clearly Popovich, Coach Popovich got into it.
It's been a focus for our program for many years. And this is not something that's new. It's that diversity of experience and thought that we use as a foundational aspect for our team. And we've had great leadership from Tim Duncan and David Robinson and the leaders of diverse communities throughout our time together.
So let's go forward. You're sitting there tonight. The arena is empty. I think you've told me you'll have maybe 100, 150 friends and family, but you'll play this game tonight. And I gather for some time in the NBA with no fans, what's the rest of the season look like from a fan attendance point of view? How might it unfold?
So I think you've got 30 different markets or 28 different markets where our teams are playing. Currently, 20 of the 30 markets aren't allowing any kind of fan access at all. Texas, we've got the opportunity to play in front of limited fans that meet both state and city guidelines as well as NBA guidelines. And Houston has done a really good job of being one of the leaders in bringing fans into a safe environment. We'll probably look towards the end of February, as things currently stand, to open our fans up to a limited capacity between 20 and 25%, depending on the health markers and metrics that we find as we move forward.
Okay. I guess last question. And you're a private company, so and probably it's a good time to be a private company in the midst of this. But I know from my own involvement in other activities that the NBA teams and football teams and Major League Baseball teams, they're having these games, but it's hard to make money when you don't have fans in the stands. How does the ownership in the league think about that?
So with no fans in our buildings, we're looking at about a 40% loss of revenues. So there's quite a bit of cooperation and communication with our players to try to create an environment that allows us to go capture the content that we have available and how we can monetize content, how we can provide value to our partners in a way through digital and social activations that I think we're all learning about. I think knowing what post-COVID world will be will have an impact on how we create value for each other with our players, with our partners. But that content aspect is really what we have that we can capture and really use in a time that, you know, just the standardization of cable sports broadcasting is changing in a pretty dynamic way.
So what might people see that's new in that regard in terms of this content that they haven't seen before? How might the audience here see that?
Well, I think if you looked at it at the bubble activation, for us to be able to put 22 teams in Orlando with no fans and have the fan experience that you saw, the virtual fan boards, the arena environments that created a really competitive place for our players, but also a safe environment for our players to play. They'd have been the first ones to call out a stale, non-competitive environment. And I don't think if you look both from throughout professional sports, very few people as players in the game have called out the environments for not being competitive. So activated fan noise and what you see over the on-air product right now is all being digitally enhanced and created in a way that I think most people would say, watching it on TV, this feels like a real NBA game.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, let's go to questions from the audience. And Mark Wynn, I'll turn it over to you. Let's take some questions.
Okay, very good. Just a reminder to the audience, if you want to ask a live question, just click on the raise hand icon at the bottom of the control bar. And actually, we already have one question in the queue from Clifton Miller. Clifton, go ahead and ask your question. You should be unmuted.
First of all, I do want to thank the NBA and its leaders for the leadership it demonstrated regarding social equity. But I don't know who the next 2021 Peters and Waterman is, but if they were looking for an In Search of Excellence book, I think what the NBA did from a social perspective, from a business perspective, from a human is just, there is so much to unpack in terms of that the business model. It's amazing. And so you know, I don't want to take too much time, but that Chairman Kaplan, President Kaplan, there's so much to unpack inside of that corporate America could learn and social America could learn. And it really, the NBA is excellence in process in so many ways. And thank you for that.
RC, why don't you comment on that? Thank you, Clifton.
Kudos to our players, first of all, because they were our partners in this. Kudos to the governors of the teams, because they really aligned through difficult times. With many of them have having divergent agendas or divergent priorities. Most of all, kudos to Adam Silver and the NBA team. They have become experts in areas that they never dreamed that they'd ever need to be, and in a way that has been empathetic throughout to our fans, to our broadcast partners, to our players, to our teams. The leadership that Adam and his team brought together within the NBA will be case studied for a long time, is my guess.
Very good. Next question up is one that came in the queue. Does the growing number of former Spurs coaches and front office members around the league make it easier or harder to maintain success? How does influencing and coaching others impact your organization in a competitive environment?
So does it make it, I think it excites our group because we have all been in this together. And while our leadership from the Holt family to Pop, to myself, to our business leaders, we get more credit than we really deserve. It's our people that have made us elite. First of all, we've all worked for Tim Duncan for the last 20 years. So anytime we're together as a internal team and with our teammates that are now in other environments, we always toast to Tim and David. But having said that, it is, we know who the people are. We know the quality and the expertise and the elite values that people who have left our program carry forward into new organizations. It's exciting to see them do well, but it also makes them an incredibly competitive environment.
Very good. Okay, next up, we have a live question from Paul Lynn. Paul, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, appreciate it, RC. Bit of a frustrated Rockets fan. We appreciate the the I-10 rivalry we've had for years. The situation with Harden this year sort of has been disappointed. My wife is a 34-year season ticket holder. Her email address is GoRockets34. Talk about this situation. I guess it really started with LeBron going to Miami. And now, where the players start playing this game of, well, I'm going to play with my friends. Talk about that and, the direction of players getting together and deciding we want to get together.
It's difficult to comment on other programs. First of all, it's against our rules. Second of all, it's just, people choose to handle their business in a certain way. And we have unbelievable respect throughout our league for the diversity of leadership and especially the player leadership. Players do have an ability to move through free agency that's been collectively bargained, but it makes it difficult on all of us when the relationships break down. We felt it very personally with Kawhi Leonard, and we understand how that happens. It doesn't make it easy. It doesn't make it easier as teams or fans, but it's also a testament to the stature and the personalities that are our product.
You've been, I guess I'll ask it because I know you've been asked a lot. So what have you said publicly in response to asking about what happened in the Kawhi Leonard situation?
We don't say a lot publicly. It was internal business. We appreciate the development and the contributions that Kawhi brought to our program. We had unbelievable success. Clearly, we wish things had been different, but our goal is, our focus now is on building the best team we can with the people and the resources that we have available.
Good, great. Okay, thank you. Back to you, Mark.
Okay, next question is from Robert Potter. Robert, go ahead and ask your question.
You may be on mute, Robert.
It looks like you're on mute.
Sorry.
Oh.
Other than the global recruiting and the size and shape of the ball, tell us the difference between being a coach or general manager in basketball versus football.
Oh, wow. I think there is so many. To put together a team of 53 players is significantly different than putting together a team of 15 players. The size of our venues, the size of our playing fields, the nature of being in a uniform that's significantly different than the uniforms we play in. But I think at the end of the day, we're all trying to build the best team we can. And the great leaders in our sport know how to build that team unity, know how to take advantage of the talent that they have and put those people in the best position that they can to be successful. And then I think it's imperative on all of us to be curious and innovate when we have an opportunity to focus on creating competitive advantages.
So people may not know this about you, but you spend a fair amount of time with general managers in various other sports. And in fact, over the years, that's how I met the general manager of the Yankees. I met through Brian Cashman, through you, and several others in a variety of sports. Why do you do that? What has motivated you to spend time with other general managers?
We'd all be foolish to think that we have life figured out, whether in whatever industry that we're in. If we don't think that there's things to be learned by people not only inside our industry but outside our industry, I think it doesn't make sense. We're in the process of developing a campus in San Antonio that will aggregate thought leaders from around the world in performance activation. And it's not physical performance that we're engaged in. It's cognitive, it's social and organizational performance. It's economic performance. It's creative arts performance. And we want to use the platform that we have to build people both virtually and on campus that will give us the opportunity to have real impact, not only on scale for our team, but on scale for people throughout the world. Southwest Research Institute and the UT Health System and the UT systems, we've got real thought leaders in our own communities and within the state of Texas that are a great platform that people want to learn from around the world. So let's take advantage of the opportunities we have to build infrastructure and relationships that will help us all be better.
Very good.
Okay, next up is Jason Lader. Jason, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, over time, TV right revenues have gone up quite a bit for the league, but the cable companies are seeing cord cutting. As that continues, it seems like the per subscriber per month revenue to the networks are going down. As that revenue pool kind of shrinks, does that have an impact at some point on what the leagues get in TV revenues? Oh, curious of your thoughts.
I think it's clear that the cable TV model is being disrupted. And so as we look to the future of our media partners and the media distribution, our content distribution, we're going to have to figure out the best way we have to get direct to consumer access. And so I think not only our media partners, but with the potential not only around the country, but within the state for mobile gaming and issues that are being addressed in the legislature now. I think the way we activate with our content is probably going to be significantly different by the end of this decade than it is walking into this decade.
Okay, next question is one that was submitted beforehand. What are the chances that the NBA enters into a World Cup competition with international teams independent of the Olympics?
So as a league, we've been engaged in this environment on multiple occasions, probably the McDonald's Classic, which was an early form of club team participation, happened when Michael Jordan was playing. We actually played after our first championship in the 1999 McDonald's Open. So this has been the case before. It was very difficult to align schedules from around the world, and the access to players was difficult to align because so many of them were engaged with their national team programs. And I think we've seen the growth of basketball around the world really probably started in 1992 at the Barcelona Olympics when the Dream Team was first put together. And that's really been the impetus for the play of our sport to be elevated across the world and to engage and really captivate a worldwide audience for basketball. It's difficult to align schedules for that. I think you'll continue to see that looked at, but I don't know when that would be. Similar to while you have the World Cup of international football, you haven't seen a large international cup of club teams, which would be what you'd try to see within an NBA worldwide championship alignment.
Okay, next question is one that came in from an audience member. Does the favorable tax situation in Texas give you an advantage in obtaining talent?
There are advantages to that, and as well as the markets that we live in, the environmental, the weather is always helpful if that fits what people want. But it's really a reflection on, I think, as you're seeing many companies move to Texas, especially during COVID, if that's important to people, then you'll see that provide an advantage. If that's not important to people, then not so much.
Next question is from Rodolfo Perez. Did you encounter any challenges while working with players from different countries and cultures?
I would say that whatever challenges we faced were far outweighed from the experiences that we were able to share with people of diversity of thought. And I think our coach had a fantastic platform to build a team differently because of the people that we had in our program. He uses food and the ability to break bread together as a real opportunity to learn about people in ways that you may typically not if you're only focused on the basketball environment. Those stories have been told throughout the media, but he's very intentional on helping people grow together by our team dinners and the opportunity to learn about each other in non-traditional ways in a sporting environment. So I think our ability to break bread together, to learn about each other outside of basketball is really what's been a huge contributing factor to our program. To have Spanish-speaking players like Pau Gasol and Manu Ginobili and Fabricio Berto and Tiago Splitter and others is really helped grow our culture within our San Antonio and Central Texas community, because there is such an ability to connect with our fans in a different way than you might if you were just playing basketball together.
What do you see as the biggest advantages and pitfalls of working in an industry where everything you do is measured purely in binary form? You either win or you lose, with so much of the job being razor thin difference between greatness and mediocrity.
The interesting thing about being in this game is we get judged from an accountability metric, from a feedback loop. We get judged 3.5 times a week, and so that's really a unique opportunity to be educated on exactly how we are doing, and it also puts your players in a position, your organization in a position, both from a competitive business and a sporting environment, that it's clear how you're doing, and and more often than not, the adaptations that you have to be successful are pretty clear to not only your organization but to the world.
Next up is a request for career advice. What are the pathways for high school students interested in sports medicine or sports management at the professional level?
I think to participate in a team environment wherever you are, and that can be within your own communities, within your own educational platforms, is first of all, if you want to be a part of a team environment, know what it's like to be a part of a team. Second of all, I think, is to find ways to provide unique value that people can't get other places. And so not just taking the traditional pathway to the educational programming, but to get engaged in ways that give you the ability to bring different skill sets than you might think typically come to a coaching environment, or a front office environment, or a business environment. We're all trying to win. We're all trying to compete. And people who are going to separate themselves are the ones who can help us add to our strategic logic and to a competitive advantage.
Thanks. Next question. Much was made about the NBA's relationship with China. Can you talk about the approach to taking the game global? What have been the pros and cons?
Well, I think they started, as we talked about a bit ago, with the Dream Team in 1992. Yeah. And from a revenue standpoint, our revenues have the greatest opportunities to grow internationally. One thing from the China perspective, Yao Ming came into the NBA in around 2000. And it was expected at that time that there would be a big influx of Chinese players into our league, which would then help us build a model that would continue to diversify our revenue streams globally. The NBA has created academies now in China, in India, in Africa, in South America, with an elite academy environment in Australia, where we bring the best of all those academy environments and bring them together, hoping to develop talent that helps us continue to grow our audience in non-traditional places. If you'd have thought basketball would have come from India a decade ago, you wouldn't have thought of that. But the programming that we've created has turned into now Sacramento with a lead owner of Indian descent, and Brooklyn with a lead owner from Chinese descent. So I think you're going to continue to see our international market grow. It's our biggest opportunity for growth. So I think you're going to continue to see the focus in non-traditional places. We're now currently have played regular season games in Mexico City for the last 6 years. And so playing real games similar to what the NFL's done in London, I think you're going to see that in places that fit within the parameters of our schedule.
RC, Yeah, I know you do a lot of thinking and work in the community, and think about the issues affecting your communities. How do the Spurs think about their activities, and what kind of work are you doing actively to serve the communities, particularly in areas for at-risk groups, either in education or other pressing areas today?
You know, this has been a priority for our organization from many years back. I think the Holt family has stressed to us that our biggest responsibility is the impact we have for our communities. And so that is one of our pillars of our strategic planning and our strategic logic is continuing to influence that in some pretty significant ways. When Pop was an assistant coach back between 88 to 92, he was actually awarded one of President Bush's 1,000 Points of Lights for the programming that he developed in our community for a drug-free basketball league that now 35 years later is a program within our community that is our youth basketball programming that reaches 20 to 30,000 people within our Texas DMA. We have had quite a bit of engagement with the East Side this summer. The digital divide was a huge impact in our community when we had to pivot to at-home education quickly. And so we used our facility and our ability to develop wireless throughout our facility and our grounds so that people could come into our parking lot and use our wireless for their online education programming in a pretty disadvantaged community. We're incredibly proud of the work the San Antonio Food Bank has done and the impact that it's had throughout our communities, all the food banks throughout Texas. But I think our group has been recognized nationally through the media as one of the leaders in really working on food insecurity. So there are so many ways that we have a responsibility to our communities that we're focused on. We have a long history of that, but I think understanding the needs of our community, asking the right questions, approaching this from an empathetic point of view where don't think we have it figured out, but let's ask questions and listen to people, and let's really surround the problems with partners that we have. Throughout our community since the George Floyd incidents, we've got a coalition of corporations and CEOs that have aligned together to really build actionable programming for change within the racism that the systemic racism that we all are a part of.
So I guess that'll lead me to this is the final question, and I guess, Mark, we've got just a couple of minutes left. Given all that you do, we've got a group listening to this tonight. We typically get business leaders, community leaders, people who are obviously civic-minded, which is causing them to tune into an event like this, often from around the country. What advice would you give to people who are tuning in tonight on how they can get involved in making a difference in their communities? We get that question a lot in the aftermath of COVID and a lot of the events and some of the concern about division in the country, and people want to do more to help disadvantaged groups and create more unification in our nation. What advice would you give about how individuals listening tonight can get more involved?
One of the real lifelong lessons I learned from you, Rob, and that's to not think we had it figured out, but to ask good questions and to be really intentional about listening. And each community might have different needs, but we all have needs. And by asking good questions, by not thinking that we know the plights of underserved communities as well as those who live it and experience it, on a daily basis. Let's pay attention to the people who really live it. Let's ask questions, and then let's problem solve. Let's put the problem in the middle, and let's get leaders in our communities that have diversified backgrounds who can add value in ways that we may not even know if we don't ask them to share with us and join in us in our real community responsibilities.
RC, I mean, just by your comments, it just reminds me what a great leader you are. You've done a great job. I'm sure you make Bob Buford and Ann Buford and your whole family very proud, and we're very proud of you. But thank you for your leadership, and thank you for being here with us tonight.
Thank you, Rob. It's a real honor and to be a friend and to learn from such an amazing leader. So thank you for being who you are.
Thank you, RC, and thank you, Mark Wynn. Back to you, sir.
Thank you all for joining us this evening. Apologies if you submitted a question that we did not get to. You'll soon receive a survey asking for feedback on this event, and we very much value your candid responses. We hope you'll be able to join us for some of our upcoming Global Perspectives events in the coming months, which will feature former Dallas Mayor Mike Rawlings, Council on Foreign Relations President Richard Haas, Dallas Mavericks CEO Cynthia Marshall, Presidential Historian Michael Beschloss, and many more. Details on how to register can be found at dallasfed.org. And with that, we are adjourned. Have a good evening.
Thank you.